good to see everybody here today. We're excited about the season that's about to be upon us, and right now we're just really focused on trying to become proficient at something and trying to get good at certain parts of the game. And so we had a very good summer, and we entered official practice with I think the right mentality that we had a lot of work in front of us to do. And so far in 2 weeks we feel like we've made a dent in it, but only a dent. Certainly a long way to go. But I'm excited about the approach this group has had every day, and hopefully it will continue and we can keep growing and getting better.
Coach, when is the last time that you've had 14 healthy players in practice to practice with?
The last time really hasn't happened yet. We did have 14 guys yesterday, but not all cleared for contact. So we still have yet to have a day where we've had everyone cleared, and hopefully today we can have a segment where maybe that happens. But it has not happened to this point.
What does that mean exactly, contact in basketball?
Well, it's like you might run your offense with no defense out there, and some guys are cleared to do that, but they're not cleared to lock horns and have defenders and physical contact, and certainly that limits some of the things that you can do because effective growth in some areas requires that you have both offensive and defensive play, and so that's been a little bit of an issue for us, to be honest with you. We've had to be diligent in our planning, but after last year's injuries, it's not something that's new to us, and some of it's been out of precaution, Chip, to be honest with you. Some of it's been by design, because some guys are still coming off injuries and not quite back where we want them to be, and we just can't afford a setback, so we've been a little bit precaution.
So who's not clear for contact?
Kenny Gaines has had some restrictions. Jawan Parker's had some restrictions. Connor O'Neal had been out and had some restrictions. And we've had a couple other guys with a ding here or there, but and that's not totally unusual either, to have some early season dings.
Are Kenny and Jawan kind of on track to be able to play full well when the season starts?
I think, Seth, both of them are on track. We hope that they're on track. We hope we're accurate, and we think that they're on track to be ready to go when the season starts. We're probably a little bit precautious, just because at this stage of the season and at this time we can't afford a setback. And we've had some minor ones, but I think both of them have managed their injuries pretty well. We have a new trainer in Ezron Bryson who's been terrific, and our medical staff is got their arms all the way around those guys to really manage their recovery and their progress.
What's your assessment of the freshmen so far?
Oh, our freshmen, kind of depends on what time of day you ask me about them. They've made a lot of plays, they've made a lot of plays, and I've been really impressed at some point with all of our freshmen. There's been a point in practice where I've been super impressed with each one of them. There's also been a couple points when I've been very unhappy with some things that they've done, but they're just freshmen. I told them yesterday, I said, you don't know anything, and you're not supposed to know anything. So just be a sponge and learn, make mistakes, learn from them, and keep getting better. But I do feel like that all four of them have a chance to help our team, and they all have been very competitive, right from the start, and are making progress.
Coach, the departures of Nemi and Marcus, that's obviously leaving you some big shoes to fill. How have your bigs looked this offseason, and what's your message been to them in terms of, we got to fill these shoes, and it's up to you guys to do that?
I think the first thing that when we look at the departure of Marcus and Nemi, the first thing I look at is that those guys led us to victory. They were terrific leaders and had great senior years, and so that's the first thing I think we have to replace, is those guys gave us great leadership. So now you look at the other returning players, and can they fill that role? Obviously the points and rebounds are of great concern, but they gave us great leadership last year, and so we have really tried to get some other guys to take ownership of our team, and we've been pleased with that. I think that that our returning players, whether it be Kenny or Charles or JJ or Jawan, Houston Kessler, those guys have been good voices. But we still have to then get to the replacement of the production up front. And I think that Yante and Houston, obviously with their experience, obviously things are easier for them right now than the new guys up front. But the message has been, really just to keep getting better every day. And if they'll do that, then I think, through the group, hopefully we can replace that scoring and rebounding. Obviously, Yante, I think, is ready to take the next step as in terms of his production. And that's going to be important to us.
Kind of piggybacking off of that question there, what do you think about the athleticism of the new guys such as Derek coming in this year?
Well, if you look at us, we're bigger up front than we were last year. Now we're just younger, and there's no substitute for experience. So Nemi at 6'7" and Marcus at 6'8" were undersized, but their intelligence and their experience really allowed them to be terrific players last year. And this year, Derek at 6'8", Mike at 6'9" as freshmen coming in. So we're bigger, we're more athletic up front. We're just younger, and so I think from an athletic standpoint, those guys fit right in. But it's like a wild colt. You got to get them trained, and right now they're making mistakes out of aggressiveness, which is okay. They're going to make some mistakes, and we're trying to create lots of possessions and lots of experiences right now in practice so they can make some of those errors and they can grow.
How's Etorian look as far as being a shooter goes? Somebody can make every from the wing.
Well, he shot the ball extremely well. He shot the ball very well. He's a better shooter probably than we evaluated in recruiting. He's really shot the ball well from the perimeter. He's was coached very well in high school, and so he's got a really good feel for the game. And he is, once he learns what he's doing, a young guy who's got a very bright future.
You mentioned Yante a while ago. I've run into him a few times outside of basketball, and it seems to me he looks a lot thinner than he was last year. When he showed up, he seemed like a thick, wide-body guy. He looks different now. Is that a product of training or just a result of something you were trying to achieve?
Well, Yante weighs about the same. He just redistributed it. He's done what all of us as we age would hope to do. He's redistributed his weight, and he weighs very similar to what he did a year ago, but he certainly has shaped up really well, and that's a credit to Yante's effort and our strength coach in the weight room. I mean, he put a lot of work in downstairs in our building, and he's I think reaping the benefits from that.
Coach, this year's team has 8 players from the state of Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
In building this team, how big of an advantage was it to recruit in state?
Well, I think it's an advantage, but you have to find guys that fit, guys that and so the geography of where a guy comes from, sometimes doesn't matter. Yante was what this team needed a year ago, but he was from Michigan, and we had to probably not offer some guys near us because we had to recruit to our need. So need is most important. But we're certainly fortunate to have, a strong Georgia flavor on our roster and some kids that grew up in this state and love this state, and that is an advantage.
With the youth you guys have in the front court and the experience you have in the back court, are we more likely to see more 3 and 4 guard lineups to start the season?
We have not practiced really with a 4-guard lineup yet. If we could get healthy, that might be something we experiment with. We just haven't been healthy enough to try that. I think that we have always tried to play pretty conventionally with 2 frontline players. This year, depending on matchups dictate so much of this game, and depending on how the matchups are people going to adjust to us, or we're going to have to adjust to them and maybe go small. It really will, I think, depend upon how much progress we make in the next 3 weeks.
Coach, the conference is going to look a little different this year with new coaches at Tennessee and at Florida, and Avery Johnson being hired at Alabama, and then you have Kentucky with a kind of turnover of their squad again. Do you see the SEC as being kind of wide open this year?
I don't know if the SEC is ever wide open. I mean, I think it's going to be a grind. I mean, there's a lot of really good teams in this league, and if you look at the national polls, Kentucky dominated the #1 spot last year, and Florida dominated it the year before that. this year there's a lot of really good basketball teams, and I think that you'll find a lot of very closely contested games, and the balance of the ball, the breaks of your health, a lot of things could contribute to how things end up in the standings, to how your schedule lays out, for instance. But I think there's probably more good teams in the league than there's been. Is there the one nationally dominant team? Well, hopefully so. But we'll have to wait and see.
Coach, Georgia's never won 3 consecutive 20-win seasons. How big a goal and big a motivation is that goal, and what would it mean for this program if you're able to do that and create that sustain?
Well, consistency is certainly one of the goals that everybody wants to have in life, as long as that consistency is one of success. I think that the roller coaster historically, we have to one day get away from that. And so if we can find success again this year and put together the 3rd straight 20-win season, then that only helps. But it's going to take time to establish the consistency, and this year's just another opportunity to do that.
Any more focus during practice on free throw shooting? Those instances last year where there's a little inconsistency going on there. Anything at all you're attempting to do in practice leading up to?
I don't know if we've had a huge difference. I think we're trying to do some things technically different with a couple of the young guys. But really for us, it's about consistency, and obviously we need tons of free throws and lots of repetition, and we shot a ton of them this summer, and we won't do a lot different in our approach. I think it will be very important to us, just as it always has been.
You approaching anything different with Charles Mann?
Free throws?
Free throw wise?
He made a lot of free throws to win games for us. He really has, and he's made a ton of really good free throws at key moments for our team, and he has confidence at the line, and he's worked to try and become even a better free throw shooter than he's been. Hopefully he will get there a lot, because I think that's with the rule changes this year, that's something that could be I think a real impact on the game.
Do you worry about the physical toll he takes with all those hits and getting to the line that often?
No, Charles is big and he's physical, and we worked really hard. Charles is probably in the best shape of his career. Now, he didn't enjoy conditioning at all this year because it was harder than it's ever been. But he's in the best shape he's been in since he's been with us, and I think because he spends a lot of time in the weight room, because he's naturally gifted, he's durable, and he's, I think, really prepared himself to deal with all of that.
We know he loves the aggressive play. Do you think when all the guards get healthy, he's going to continue that aggressive style of play?
We want Charles to be aggressive. I think he's very poised. I think we've had 11 practices. He still hasn't had a 10th turnover. I mean, he's really, I think, playing efficient basketball right now, which we're pleased with. And I hope that he will stay aggressive. But his experience now, I think, leads him to be able to be aggressive when needed, and also recognize when he doesn't need to be.
You said Deontay's ready to take that next step in his production. How critical, given having to replace the points and rebounds for Nemi and Marcus, how critical is it that Deontay does that?
Well, it's important. I think it's important that he become a more productive player. But really, his minutes should go up. And so because he's on the floor more, he should have more opportunities. And, he doesn't have to be a totally different player than he was last year. He just, as he gets more minutes and more shots and more rebounds because of that, hopefully he can have, a bigger, production at the end of the day.
So you saw in kind of the minutes he had last year, the stuff that if you extrapolate out minutes-wise would be a pretty good...
Extrapolate, that's a heck of a word for a
Maryland
Maryland guy, right? I think that if we went on a per minute basis and said, hey, if you'd be the same player you were last year, that yes, he would be more productive with more minutes. We still would like to see him, improve on that. But I think that as we look at his abilities and where we can put him and how he's worked, that hopefully in our plans he'll be a more productive player. But we still have to go do it, and he still has to go do it, and that's the important thing.
Coach, what sparked the program's new Raise the Flag campaign?
Well, it's not new to us. I think the secret just got out. We've been doing it for a couple of years, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know people learned about it, and then they wanted to do a little background story on it. So now, everyone's aware of how it originated and why we do it, but it's worked for this group, and they take pride in trying to enrich the tradition at Georgia, and so with that, that tradition is kind of stuck.
Kenny Gaines has shown flashes of his career to be a very, very special player. I go back to that Ole Miss game a couple seasons ago when not only did he score a lot, but he also locked down Marshall Henderson, especially in that second half. Have you seen anything from him this offseason that shows that he's ready to kind of do that with some more consistency?
Kenny Gaines has been a very good player for us. All I saw him really do in the summertime was walk around with a cast on his foot. He didn't have a great summer because he was trying to get healthy. Last year, if you remember, Kenny had the shoulder injury, then he had lots of dings, ended up with a foot injury, and so I think getting healthy and staying healthy will help him become more consistent. Last year's team, I think in the league, we either had 4 guys in double figures and almost a fifth, and so we had a very balanced offensive team. And Kenny, if the team hadn't been as balanced, he probably could have bumped his numbers up a little bit. Obviously, when he got hurt at the end of the year, it really impacted our team, and so he's an important piece of what we do. And I think he's determined to he's had a very mature approach to his injury, and he's I think determined to have a good senior year.
The last couple of years, you said the expectations have been to win 20 games, finish top 4, top 5 in the league, try and make an NCAA tournament appearance, and you guys have sort of started to do that. Do you think it's maybe time to raise those expectations and raise your goals now that you started meeting them consistently?
All respect, I never said that. I never said that was the expectation. Our expectation for our players is number 1, that they get educated, number 2, that they be good citizens, number 3, they give us all they got to win. And our focus is trying to get better every day, get better every year, and if that leads us to those things that you mentioned, then great. But our team has not even sat down and talked about what we're trying to accomplish. We're not there yet. We're just trying to get good at some things, and once we make some progress and other things become a realistic conversation, then we'll start to have those conversations. But right now, it's about simply putting your hard hat on, coming to work every day, and trying to get better and trying to become a team.
JJ Green, excuse me, Frazier, not JJ Green. JJ Frazier, he has a huge game at Mississippi State last year. He got beat up a good bit, period, during the year. And then now, going into this season, he almost would seem kind of like an odd man out with all these big guards that you've recruited in here and everything. He still, I'm sure he still has a role on the team, and what is it? And
yeah, JJ last year had a broken hand, and then he got an elbow to the orbital bone, had a broken orbital bone, and a concussion. And so really, I don't remember the exact dates, but I would guess the last month of the season he probably played with a couple breaks and just kind of fought through it. And it got to him at the bitter end last year. But he's obviously still a very good basketball player, and he's very much in the battle every day, and so we're expecting him to be certainly a significant part of our team.
Mark, you've known Turtle for a really long time. How does the relationship change going from recruiting him to now you got him on campus and coaching?
Turtle's a wonderful kid, and I have known him a long time. And what's different about Turtles, the first thing he would always ask me is, how can I get better? What could I do better? And usually in recruiting, they're not asking that. Most recruits are wanting the exact opposite. They want to know how good they are. And he was always so driven that the first question was, how can I get better? What can I do better? And I've always respected that about him. So now that he's playing for us, he doesn't have to he doesn't ask the question as often because we're telling him in practice, but he wants to learn, and he's got an unbelievable approach to getting better. He has the advantage of going against Charles and JJ and Kenny every day, and there's a lot of days that probably doesn't feel like an advantage to him because he's got to saddle up every day. And but Kenny Gaines had it with Contagious, and it makes you better. And he's had a great approach to the starter practice, and obviously has a lot to learn about playing at this level and playing that position. But he's he's really the same kid that he was when we recruited him, which is great to see.
We time for one more question?
Or not?
No more? Great. Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate all you do.